Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Matt Haller. I'm the president and CEO of the International Franchise Association. We are thrilled to be here on another one of our Open for Opportunity stops as part of this roadshow. It's actually our first repeat visit here at Inspire Brands and in the great state of Georgia. Open for Opportunity was started to really take the conversation about franchising outside of Washington, D.C., and specifically designed as a campaign to educate lawmakers and the media about the value of franchising to the economy and to debunk some of the myths that are out there about the franchise business model. This is our 16th Open for Opportunity visit since launching, and we have connected with more than 300 lawmakers across 12 states. And as we've expanded the campaign, we are pleased to add a new component to educate the public about how to start their own franchise journey through education, the importance of doing due diligence, and connecting with IFA member brands, these prospective franchisees. One of the things that we'll be doing, and I want to thank a couple of our brands, specifically Tropical Smoothie Cafe, we're going to be putting these window clings in the front of many franchise locations across the state of Georgia and on trucks and delivery vehicles to help potential franchisees gather the information they need to become new franchise owners. One other bit of news this morning, I want to thank great Governor Kemp, who proclaimed today Open for Opportunity Day here in the state of Georgia. Round of applause for the governor. And this, maybe something for Paul's office. There are over 31,000 franchise businesses in the state of Georgia, generating $33 billion in economic output annually. And this initiative, Open for Opportunity, is built to highlight the unique ways that franchising is a proven job-creating mechanism that not only offers opportunities to entrepreneurs, but also supports more than 320,000 jobs in Georgia alone. And in fact, according to IFA's research, Georgia is the third fastest growing state for franchise development in the country. So with that, I want to thank Paul Brown, co-founder and CEO of Inspire Brands, for hosting us today. Let Paul welcome the group. Thank you, Paul. You have such an amazing team on the government relations side. I appreciate everything that you and your infrastructure does to support the IFA, this campaign, and franchising. I was just saying to some folks on the way up that the culture here at Inspire Brands is really what it's all about. You're investing in people and franchise ownership and great brands, and that's what this industry is really all about. So thank you for hosting us. If you'd like to welcome the group, then we'll go around and open it up.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. I would just like to quickly welcome everybody to Inspire Atlanta Support Center. We have about 2,000 people working in this building across many, many functions, some with the restaurant-specific functions, but many in IT, data analytics, treasury, accounting. Atlanta and Georgia is such a phenomenal place to grow a business, headquarter a business. It's great access to talent for people that are here. It's a great place to be able to recruit people to come to. It's an incredibly business-friendly political environment, and so we're just very proud to be here. Franchising has been near and dear to my heart for many years. Do I need to turn on the mic? People keep pushing. Sorry about that. Did anybody hear anything I said already? Do I really need to start over? Okay.
Run it back, Paul.
All right, welcome to Inspire's Atlanta Support Center. That sounds a little bit better, okay. We're just really thrilled to have you here. Thank you again for having this. Again, many familiar faces around the table, so looking forward to the conversation today. We have over 2,000 people headquartered in this building, and we've been growing this business for many years since we founded the company. Atlanta is a phenomenal place to headquarter and grow a business. It is a great place to find talent that's already existing in the area. We have found and we have recruited a number of people, including a lot of my key leadership team, to move to Atlanta from actually many parts across the world. And it's in a great business-friendly political environment. Makes it actually a pleasure to do business, which I can't say that's the case in all states around the country. And franchising also is just been near and dear to my heart. I started in the franchising business over 25 years ago with a job at Intercontinental Hotels just around the corner. Worked at Hilton Hotels for many years, and then obviously here. It's a uniquely American business model. It allows entrepreneurs to actually start and grow businesses in a way that they probably would not have been able to do on their own. We have over 3,800 franchisees in our system that own and operate over 27,000 restaurants in the United States. Several of the franchisees are here today. So I'm glad we're having a chance to have this dialogue on such an important topic for the U.S.
Well, thank you again so much, Paul, for hosting us. And we have a number of elected officials, franchise leaders, franchisees, and some of our partners that help support the franchising ecosystem as part of this roundtable. Before we get into the conversation, I just want to let everybody say hello, introduce themselves. This is not the U.S. Senate, so this is an opportunity to be brief and concise. We do a large roundtable, and we don't have any senators here today, so that'll be a good thing. Congressman Bishop, let me start with you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for hosting us, Paul, and thank you so much, Matt, for this forum. I mean, it is tremendous. I am Sanford Bishop. I represent the 2nd Congressional District of Georgia. I happen to be the Dean of the Georgia Congressional Delegation, succeeding John Lewis in that capacity. I represent Midland, Southwest Georgia. I have had the good fortune of serving in the State House, 14 years the State Senate too, and I'm now the senior member of the Georgia delegation. I've been in the Congress now this is my 32nd year. I ran for Congress because I wanted to use the political process to improve people's lives through jobs and a stronger economy, better education, safe communities, a clean environment, sustainable agriculture, and a strong national defense. All of the ingredients which make for a better quality of life. And there's no way that we can have that quality of life without jobs. And of course, franchisees and small business really are the backbone of this country in terms of our capitalist system. And so my job, as I see it, is to try to, through government, make an environment, or create an environment, or support an environment that makes for that better quality of life so that business flourishes, jobs are created, and all of the things that people need are there. And that's what I've been trying to do for now almost 50 years. And I look forward to hearing and supporting in any way that I can. I've done it historically. I serve on the Appropriations Committee. I've either been the ranking or the rank of the chair of the Agriculture Subcommittee of Appropriations. I'm on the Military Construction, Veterans Affairs Subcommittee of Appropriation, and Financial Services Subcommittee of Appropriation, and I'm also on the Agriculture Authorizing Committee. So with that, I tried to position myself to be in a place where I can help folks. Politics is nothing more, nothing less than who gets what, when, and how. That's what I learned in Political Science 101 at Morehouse College, and it's very true. And it's elected officials who sit at tables, whether it's the local, the state, or the federal level, who make those decisions in allocating resources and putting policies in place to determine who gets what, when, and how. And so I wanted to use that to make sure that I can help improve everybody's quality of life. Thanks. Look forward to hearing.
Thank you, Congressman.
All right.
Congressman McCormick.
Welcome to my district. It's good to have you here. I am very honored to have you all here, and I always said if you dropped a pin in Alpharetta and do it a 40-mile radius, you'd have one of the wealthiest places in the world. This place has been based on this idea that there's an opportunity here that doesn't exist in other places. Opposite experience to my counterpart that I'm sitting next to right now. He went to Morehouse. I taught at Morehouse. I also went to Morehouse School of Medicine, so we do have that in common. But I was a 20-year military guy, 16 years in the Marine Corps, both as a pilot and airborne, then became an ER physician with the Navy stationed on the Marine Corps base with several tours overseas. Never went to a political meeting, never went to a fundraiser, didn't know a politician until now, and I'm in my first term in Congress. So almost an opposite approach. The one thing I would say that maybe there would be a different approach to the way I look at this, I'm here to get the government out of the way. Not to pick winners and losers, not to make sure that somebody's successful or not successful, but to make sure that you have the opportunities that you've always had in America that give you the ability to prosper more than anywhere else in the world. And one thing I do know from my experiences, I've been to over 50 countries in the world. I've seen a lot of bad places, a lot of good places, but one thing I know, America is absolutely a unique opportunity because we are the one government that was based on empowering the people and not the government. If we can continue to do that, we'll be all right. Thank you.
You'll have to forgive my voice. I've had a little surgery over the last few days. I'm Doc Cohen. I'm the founder of Cookie Associates, which was the very first franchisee of Great American Cookies, which is headquartered right here in Atlanta. I've been a franchisee of a number of brands, including Pretzel Maker, Pretzel Time, Coffee Beanery, TCBY, Wing Zone, and there's another one in there somewhere, Marble Slab. I was also past chairman of the IFA, and I want to thank Paul for hosting us again today and Matt for inviting me to be here. I look forward to answering whatever questions I can answer to be of help to anyone in the room.
Hello, my name is Danielle Noonan, formerly Hotchkiss on here. I own 2 Jimmy John's franchisees in north of Atlanta, so I appreciate you having me here today, and thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Charles Watson. I'm the CEO of Tropical Smoothie Cafe. We are a healthier, quick casual restaurant chain. We've got 1,450 units in 44 states in the U.S. Paul, thank you for hosting us. Matt, pleasure to be here. Thank you for all of our representatives showing up as well. Thank you.
Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Mike Haynes. I own 7 of the Tropical Smoothie Cafes around the country, scattered across the North Atlanta suburbs. So Forsyth County, Gwinnett County, North Fulton County. Thanks for hosting us.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Darcel Stewart. I'm a UPS store franchisee. I own 5 locations in the Atlanta metro area, Decatur, Douglasville, and Midtown Atlanta. I'm 15 years in, so thank you very much for having me. This is my first roundtable like this, but I am familiar with the IFA and all the great work that's been done. So thank you so much. Look forward to it.
I'm Nishit Patel. I'm the franchisee of the Jimmy John's and Dunkin' Donuts, along with the UPS stores, Red Roof Inn and Motel 6. And thanks for the opportunity to be over here, and a lot to learn, and can able to answer the questions if anybody has in franchise. Thank you.
My name is Clarissa Bradstock. I'm the CEO of a brand called Any Lab Test Now. We are based just around the corner in Dunwoody, and we have 230 locations throughout the country. We have 10 in the state of Georgia, and we provide direct access testing for clinical and toxicology and DNA testing, where healthcare consumers can come in and order their own lab tests, and the results go back to them and their physician.
Good morning. My name is Stephanie Fisher, and I am the president and CEO of the Georgia Restaurant Association. I am 4 months into my position, but know the hospitality business very well. It's the only career I've had over the last 30 years. And for the Georgia Restaurant Association, we are the voice of Georgia restaurants in advocacy, education, and awareness. And thank you so much for having me here this morning.
Good morning. I'm Katie Kirkpatrick, President and CEO of the Metro Atlanta Chamber. Thank you for having me. It's nice to see all of the congressmen that are here this morning. The Metro Atlanta Chamber exists to unleash Atlanta's ambition. We are primarily an economic development agency focused on growing economic investment and growth in this region, but we also do policy and marketing. And I think one of the points I'd like to share with you all is that Metro Atlanta has the highest concentration of franchisees and franchisors in the country.
Hi, my name's Sean Goldsmith. I'm just excited to be here to get to Dunkin'. I don't know if you knew this, Paul, but Doc's mentor was actually Bill Rosenberg, the founder of Dunkin', so he's pretty excited to be here too. And I got a good mentor in Doc. So my name's Sean Goldsmith. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Markery. We find franchise candidates to own brands, so like the people over here, it's a very hard process. And one of the issues I think we'll be discussing today is actually finding the right ways to vet the right candidates for franchisors. I'm also very involved in franchise education. There's a program called CFE. If you don't have a CFE, it's something you should look into. I'm the chair of the program, and I'm very active in franchise education at my alma mater at Cornell. I think a lot of young people, I came into franchising at 17. I think it's something that people should know at a younger age.
Slade Strickland, good morning. CEO of Duck Doctor. We're a franchisor based in Norcross. We also have corporate locations that service most of Georgia. I would say service franchising is something very different than what people expect of franchising, and thank you for having me.
Good morning, Shams Trania. I'm a franchisee for Dunkin' and Popeyes and own about 40 locations in Georgia and Alabama. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Mike.
Good morning. My name's Greg Thomas. I'm a franchisee of Great Clips. We have about 60 stores, and we also have a dozen or so Smoothie Kings and a dozen or so other businesses. This is my first, as Darcel said, it's her first roundtable. It's mine first, too. Anyway, glad to be here. Thanks.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Indy Nandra. I'm currently co-owner of multiple mathnasiums, math learning centers, going into franchising, into education. My son is co-owner. He's sitting right over there. We have our passion of making a difference in the children's lives. I drank the franchise Kool-Aid in 1999 when I was the 4th Goddard School owner in Georgia, in Norcross. And it's turned into an amazing journey. My passion is franchising. I currently sit on the executive board of the IFA, and I'm also the chair of the Franchisee Forum. And it's just creating that wonderful opportunity for people to be in business for themselves. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Daniel Halpern with Jackmont Hospitality. We own and operate about 50 restaurants around the country, on the street and in airports. Franchising obviously is a single opportunity for a lot of Americans to move forward. So I want to give thanks to the congressmen that are in front of us, because at the end of the day, if we can get a few things changed on the policy side, which I firmly believe are nonpartisan, I think we can allow a lot more people to kind of embrace the American dream and own their own business. So thank you for coming.
Good morning. I'm Doug Shipman. I'm the president of the Atlanta City Council. I see my colleague Liliana Bakhtiari back there as well. You know, on the local level, franchising is so important, especially to a growing place like Atlanta, as we continue to have people come, new neighborhoods being developed, both as a stepping stone. Atlanta as a place that a lot of people come to go to college for the first time, or to start their family, to start a new business. But also we have so many places in our cities that are growing, not only in Atlanta, but in the entire region. And people want walkability, and they want to be able to go down and get food or get services very close to them. And so we really see franchising as a key part of our growth agenda as well. I just noticed, and it's so true, franchises as good neighbors when it comes to philanthropy, when it comes to corporate leadership or nonprofit leadership, when it comes to participation at the local level. So many of franchise operators and owners are the backbone. So we're trying to make good policy at the local level because we know the benefit. So it's a real pleasure to be here, Matt and Paul. Thanks for including me.
Good morning. I'm Barry Loudermilk. I represent Georgia's 11th Congressional District, which starts at about Truist Park, and I have Marietta, portions of Sandy Springs, up into Kennesaw, then Canton, Woodstock, Cartersville, Calhoun, and all the way up into Jasper. So it's a broad district with a lot of business, a lot of small business, large business. Prior to being in Congress, I was a small business owner. Started an IT services company after I left the Air Force, and we did a lot of work, a lot of services for small businesses, medium businesses, as well as franchise. And I can tell you from the experience of working with franchise businesses, it's not a cookie cutter, as some in Washington want to make it. There's significant differences between a lot of small businesses, medium businesses, versus those that are small businesses that run franchises. And so I've got a lot of friends that are strong advocates. We have a lot of members of Congress that are franchise owners. And so they're a great resource for us, and look forward to continuing to work with all of you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Congressman Hank Johnson, representing Georgia's 4th Congressional District for the past 18 years. It's gone by so quickly. And but I'll tell you, I want to thank the International Franchise Association, Matt, for bringing us all together, and Paul, for offering this fine facility, Inspire Brands, for us to host this event. I'm happy to be before all of you all. I see a couple of long-time advisors in the room who I have relied upon for their business acumen when it comes to my decision-making on legislation. So Dan Halpern and Stacy Key are in the room. I want to thank you all for your counsel over the years. And you know, I came to Congress as a criminal defense lawyer, having practiced law for 27 years, and I was a little different than my colleagues in graduating from law school. Everyone was looking for a job, looking to get a job, pay off the student loans, and be comfortable. And I was looking at hanging out my own shingle. I just always had that in my mind that I wanted to hang my shingle and start a practice and practice for myself. I was a small business owner for 27 years before going to Congress. I was paying salaries and making sure that my people got paid before I got paid. So I kind of know what it is to be a small businessman. I'll tell you, it would have been easier if I had had a business plan and a brand, if I could have had a franchise, but that opportunity was not available at that time. But I feel a certain kinship with franchisees and franchisors. It's a unique American form of doing business, and I think it has served us well. I know that there are challenges that confront this mode of business, but I think we can get through it. Society is in a state of chaos, but out of chaos and confusion comes clarity. And so I'm looking forward to being a part of that process in government. Government is of, by, and for the people. It is us. We are the government, or at least I feel like I'm still a little guy participating in government. I look at it from the standpoint that everyone should be treated fairly. The rules should be such as to enable everyone to prosper. And so I stand for that principle. Looking forward to working with my colleagues here to make sure that we have a government that is suitable for the times in which we live. And with that, I'll yield my time to my good friend.
Well, thank you, and thank you for having us here today, Paul, Matt. I really appreciate it. My name is Buddy Carter. I have the honor and privilege of representing the 1st Congressional District of Georgia, which encompasses the entire coast of Georgia, over 100 miles of pristine coastline. As you can imagine, we're very, very proud of it. It's also my home. It's where I've lived all my life, where I intend to live the rest of my life. So, you know, it's an honor to serve in Congress. It's a special honor when you represent the area that you grew up in. The 1st Congressional District of Georgia, we have 2 major seaports, the Port of Savannah, the number 3 container port in the country, the fastest growing container port in the country. We have the Port of Brunswick, which is the number 2 roll-on, roll-off port in the country. We also have a strong military presence with Kings Bay Naval Base, with Hunter Army Airfield, with Fort Stewart. We also have a strong ag presence, a strong forestry presence as well. Recently, the governor announced, and it is under construction now, the single largest economic development project in the history of the state of Georgia in the 1st District, and that is the Hyundai EV factory. A $5.5 billion investment with creating over 8,100 jobs, with probably that more of an investment in ancillary businesses and that many more jobs. So we are posed for a lot of growth in our area. Professionally, I'm a pharmacist. For many years, I was the only pharmacist in Congress. We have another pharmacist in Congress now, so I'm just the oldest pharmacist in Congress at this point. But I own my own business for 32 years, Carter's Pharmacy. I had 3 retail pharmacies. I had another business, Carter's Institutional Pharmacy, which serviced nursing homes, personal care homes, and hospices. And So I was not a franchisee, but I have been a small business owner, and I certainly appreciate and certainly understand what the great job that you do in our economy and how important you are to our economy. So thank you for having me here today. I look forward with great anticipation to the discussion that we'll have today. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman. So let's get into the conversation a little bit. I'm going to start with some of our franchisees, and I want to come to Shams first, actually, if I could. Sorry to put you on the spot, but you have such an amazing story immigrating to America. You were exposed to the franchise model at such an early age, helping run a Popeyes, I understand, in high school. And when you were in college, you worked at a Dunkin' to make extra money, but thought you would go into accounting.
Yes.
Could you share how you eventually returned to franchising and your now American dream that you built?
Yeah, so parents immigrated from Mumbai, India in 1999. I was 14 years old and not a very well-behaved teenager. So my dad put me at work at a Popeyes because I used to cut school and go to the mall. So he said, listen, go to work, and whatever money you make, you can spend it at the mall. So I think that was a fair ask. So went to go work at a Popeyes. Enjoyed franchising. Gave me confidence as an immigrant teenager to interact with people. Had a lot of fun. Graduated from high school, enrolled at Georgia State for an accounting degree, because the goal was get an accounting degree, get a job, and that's the American dream. Part to pay for school, I started working for a Dunkin' franchisee in Chamblee, Georgia, and graduated with an accounting degree, went to do an internship at PricewaterhouseCoopers, and hated it. So I didn't accept the full-time offer. I was at home, unemployed, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And that's when, again, got my another chance at franchising. Dunkin' called me and asked me to operate 2 stores on a temporary basis till they could refranchise them. And I think when I went back in operating those 2 restaurants was when I realized that this is exactly what I want to do. And here I am.
There are so many of those types of stories, particularly people that think they want to go down that corporate path, and they sit in that cubicle, and it's not for them. So congratulations on all the success that you've had and continue to have. Daniel, I wanted to come to you because Sham's story is of course one of many, and it's really, I think, one of the reasons we wanted to launch this campaign a couple of years ago, to explain, who is really behind franchising and how the model truly works. And as we've learned over the last several years, there are too many in government that don't always understand or appreciate how franchising works. You, as several of the congressmen have noted, have been an advisor to a number of lawmakers and policymakers. How do you best explain franchising to lawmakers who are confused or misinformed about the model?
It's a loaded question.
That's why you pay the big bucks on the IFA board.
Well, I would say first and foremost, right, franchising is the easiest path to the American dream, to own your own business, to hire people, and to be a mainstay in your community, whether you're a pharmacist on the coast, whether you're a lawyer in South DeKalb. It's the best way to kind of really realize that American dream. And I think one of the things I've had the privilege serving on the IFA board for a couple of years and working with some of the gentlemen at the head table is how do we create more opportunity for more Americans, right? I think at the end of the day, we're in a process, we're in a space in America today where we're very polarized, and somehow we seem to get polarized politically. Maybe it's the easiest way for the media to divide us. But I think economic opportunity, a job for a young person, a business for somebody to own and run on a day-to-day basis is the easiest way to turn communities around. Look at my good friend Jay Bailey over there. I'm trying to get off his phone. We talk a lot about how do we create more business in some of the underserved communities. And I think if we can really dig in with the 5 members of Congress at the head table and really ensure that there's access to capital, because I do think through the IFA, through Inspire Brands, other brands that are out here, the gentleman from Cornell at the end of the table who's helping match potential franchisees with franchisors, we really can shore up the economy. I think the easiest way to reduce incarceration rates is to get people in business and get people jobs. And Congressman Bishop and Congressman Johnson, I spent a lot of time talking about these things, and fortunately I've had franchises in both their districts, so I think it really does matter. So I guess to come full circle to your question, Matt, we got to open the doors. We all know that this is a great, great opportunity. There's a lot of great brands out here. And then, you know, some of us that started off franchising 30 years ago, then we turn around and we start creating our own brands that we want to go franchise. So we all come full circle. So I would say we got to have better dialogue. We got to open up access to capital, the small business committees. And we also have to make sure that as associations, we're encouraging more people to become franchisees and helping them get there. Hopefully I answered your question.
Thank you, Daniel. Well, one of the areas where we've seen the most uncertainty in the franchising community is around this issue of joint employment. And recently, Congressman Carter, I'm going to come to you. The National Labor Relations Board issued a rule on what constitutes a joint employer, adding great confusion to the franchise business model. We saw a similar rule in 2015 adopted that cost the industry $33 billion a year, 376,000 lost job opportunities, and a 93% increase in litigation. Congress has passed legislation that would have overturned this. Unfortunately, President Biden ultimately vetoed that rule, and it was done in a bipartisan way. So that's unfortunate. IFA has challenged this rule in the courts, but Congressman Carter, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about why it's so important for Congress to preserve this independence of the franchise business model and the separation between franchise brands and franchisees.
Well, it is very important, but perhaps even more important, this is why you need to be involved. This is why you need to be on Capitol Hill. You know, we're a citizen legislature. You got a lawyer, you got a pharmacist, you got, you know, we're not professional politicians, although you could make the argument that some have been up there a long time and they've turned into professional politicians. But my point is that, you know, there are people who don't have any experience with this. And when we're voting on things in Congress, that's why we need your input. You need to be there. I've always said, listen, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And that's why you need to be involved. That's why you need to get to know your congressman. That's why you need to get to know your senator. That's why you need to get to know the staff. They're very important as well. This is an example, perfect example of why advocacy matters and why you need to be involved. And yes, it's obvious that this is something that could have a tremendous impact on franchisees and franchisors. And again, this is why we need to have you in there. And it's probably, you know, how did it originate? Somebody sitting in a building in Washington, D.C. who has no clue what franchising means, who has no clue what a franchisor is. And they're promulgating rules like this in Congress. You know, I'd like to think we do our job, and sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But it's up to us to catch things like this. But unless you're there, and unless you're involved, this is the kind of result that you're going to get.
Thank you. I think it's absolutely the right point to make, and I think one of the areas that we've really stepped up our game is getting both brands and franchisees to help communicate really what the different roles are of brands and franchisees. So Charles, I want to come to you because obviously under Tropical Smoothie, you've seen incredible growth. I'd love to have you talk about that for just a moment, but then also you're with one of your franchisees right next to you, Mike. Talk a little about the joint employer issue that we've been dealing with and how brands support their franchisees but really operate as truly separate entities, because as we think about members of Congress, they deal with information in 5 and 10 minute chunks. Sure. And getting the privilege to have 6 of them with us this morning to hear from a range of stakeholders, I think is not one that we want to pass up. Sure, absolutely. And a little bit of a paradigm shift from a thinking perspective, and I bet the other franchisor CEOs will say the same thing. I'm sitting between 2 other CEOs. They're the CEOs of their business. right? Paul and I might happen to be over a brand or multiple brands, but you're running your own business. The difference between Mike and I is that I'm focused as a CEO for a brand on empowering Mike and making sure that we have great brand awareness, that we have great unit level economics, that they have a bicycle that they can ride and they can have a lot of success with to empower this American dream that we're talking about that is, I agree, Daniel, incredibly accessible. And quite honestly, if you look at Small Business Association statistics, 2/3 more successful than an independent business, right? So we have a great thing going here that's under threat, and it just sort of doesn't make sense, I would say, as Mr. Carter was saying. If you don't know it, you don't really understand it. The different roles as CEO, Mike is focused on his 7 locations. He's focused on service delivery. He's focused on serving the end customer. And he does that through his products, his service, right, and his hospitality, right, to all the franchisees. I don't have a business without him doing that at the end of the day. I always say our franchisees sign our paychecks as franchisors. So while he focuses on that and I focus on my role, we're partners. We're fellow CEOs who are focused on different areas of the business, right? What makes Mike successful, and I'm sure other franchisor CEOs would say that the same thing, is the ability of the franchisee to unleash the power of people that work on their crews, right? All of us would say that. That's what makes a great franchisee, is they develop a culture in their locations that allows them to provide a higher level of service and a higher product, et cetera. The same as all of our congresspeople in their entrepreneurial ventures. You got to work hard. Nothing's easy, right? So it's the grit and determination that these franchisees have to empower and unleash their people, which is a fantastic thing for us. And it requires high touch, right? Danielle and Mike, they have to work and know their managers and know their crew members, their employees, or whatever the term may be, in order to get the most out of them. That's empowering. Shams, I started the same way. I started at the dishwasher, right? My dad used to call it the race car. I guess to make it sound more fun, it was still washing dishes. But it's so important that we both know our roles and putting them together. Now, what messes this up, in my opinion, a little bit when we start talking about joint employer, that it's Charles's job as the CEO of Tropical Smoothie Cafe to focus on Mike's employment practices. Okay, I can understand sitting in a building in Washington, oh, that might make sense. Maybe Charles can do a better job with that. That completely defeats the purpose of the entire business model, which is Mike likes me a lot. We're buddies. He didn't sign up and pay a franchise fee for me to be his boss. He already had one of those. He had one you've heard of, which he'll tell you about, right? So it diminishes the whole focus of what we call the franchise value chain, which is allow me to focus on the brand and make it a fantastic bicycle that we can ride really fast and make a lot of money and employ a lot of people, to the increased litigation and the increased costs that come with, let's call it what it is, a more deep-pocketed franchisor, where you can go extract some value from it. And so it really is harmful and detrimental to, we talk about $33 billion in Georgia, and we're talking about $900 billion in this country. Franchising is the greatest vehicle for individual American entrepreneurialism and wealth creation that this country has ever seen. As Paul said, it's uniquely American. The fact that we're having this debate is almost scary that we've gotten to this point, right? So I'll leave it at that. But again, he's not looking for a boss. He's looking for a partner.
Yeah, and Mike, do you want to just comment on that? And then I'm going to come to Congressman Bishop after that, who I know has to leave a little bit early.
Sure. Yeah, so I was asked, or I've frequently asked the question, why did I get into franchising, right? What led me to make a move out of the tech sector and a successful career there for 17 years? I'm not a technologist, I was business side. One of the things that I have said is I know what I know what I don't know. Right? I've had enough success, I've had enough failure in life as I look to transition out of the corporate world kind of in my mid-40s. And so I see on the sign behind Paul and Matt over there, we're part of something bigger than ourselves, right? The appeal of franchising to me was that it allowed me to find a partner, in this case Tropical Smoothie, Charles and his team, that could bring expertise that was focused on developing a brand, focused on developing business processes, procedures, menus, things like that, that had I had to spend my personal energy, time, human capital working on those sorts of things, not only would I have not gotten to the right solution, I certainly wouldn't have gotten to it fast enough. It would have greatly diminished the chances that I had of being successful. The fact that the franchise business model exists allowed me ultimately to take what I think I do uniquely well, or at least what my greatest talent is, which is identifying people that can align to a specific vision, lead them, coach them, correct them when needed, and ultimately get them to execute a business model in this case, right? And a playbook that's given to me by my franchisor. Now, the thing that I love additionally about franchising is it allows me to have input into that model. It allows me to have input into that practice, but I am uniquely my own, and my success or failure depends upon my ability and my team's ability to execute the playbook. Ultimately, it's handed to us and kind of improve upon it where there are opportunities to do so.
Did you tell them what tech companies you worked for? They were relatively successful, I think.
You might have heard of them. They're two of the probably 5 most well-capitalized or highest capital value companies in the world. I worked for Microsoft, and I was an early employee at Facebook. And really what led to me making the move was, just a general lifestyle change, right? I was tired of 5-day-a-week travel, week in and week out. As my wife said, when we were kind of approaching the birth of our 3rd child a little later in life than what we had originally planned on, proof that God has a sense of humor, she said, I don't care if you work 100 hours a week, you're going to sleep in your own bed every night, and you're going to ultimately be able to finally fulfill one of the things that I know is you care about, which is the ability to impact people in your local area, to feel once and for all connected to the local communities. We own 7 of these tropical smoothie locations. They're all right in our backyards. We serve our friends, we serve our family members, we serve people that we've known for years and years and years. We employ many of our kids' friends. We create opportunities for them. We create opportunities for young people that might not be pursuing the traditional college route, and are looking for somebody to pour into them and give them the opportunity to grow, to develop, to learn some professional skills that will set them up for a better future.
Thanks so much, Mike. What a great journey and story, and continues to be. I want to come to Congressman Bishop, pivot a little bit away from that one policy area where we have some uncertainty to another policy area where there's some uncertainty, and that's taxes. I know you've been very involved in, and thank you for your support of the recent bipartisan tax bill that the House passed. It is something that is of great interest to most in the franchise community and the broader business community, but it is stuck in the Senate. As we know, if Congress does not act, there are a number of tax cliffs, some that have already gone into effect that impact our members around areas like bonus depreciation and interest deductibility, and then small business pass-throughs, which are the largest. 80+% of franchise businesses are pass-through entities, which would be a big issue next year if not addressed. I wonder if you could just offer some comments about your work in that area, and anything else you'd like to discuss, Congressman.
Let me just say that what we do in terms of policy, taxes, has a tremendous impact. And many times, those of us, as Congressman Carter pointed out, we come from all different walks of life. Members of Congress have all kinds of backgrounds. I was an attorney. I had a small business practicing law for 20 years before I went to Congress. So it depends upon our getting input and information from the people that we represent so that we can understand what it is about a policy that impacts you well or adversely. And you're where the rubber meets the road. And it's important for us to be able to listen. As an attorney, I did not have all of the expertise on every issue that came before me that walked into the office. But I had to bring in expert witnesses. I had to do the research in order to find out. And that armed me with the information with which I could be an advocate. And of course, as an advocate for my constituents who are small business people, who are franchisees, I need to know what it is that's pinching you, what it is that's impeding your capacity to do what you have to do. And of course, it's the squeaking wheel that gets the grease, and it's the crying baby that gets the milk in the political process. So we have to hear from you. And I always have an open door, have always had, because that is how I can best be an advocate. So when we were going through the pandemic, when I could hear the impact that it was having and the policies that Congress was enacting had the potential or were having on Daniel and his businesses. Daniel picked the phone and he called and said, look, this is what we're going through. Nobody seems to be listening. So that's the role that we have to play. But if you don't tell us, we don't know, and we don't, most members don't have that independent knowledge about your specific issue. So when you bring it to us, it arms us, and we want to help you. We want to create that environment that makes you successful. So engage us, let us hear from you, and we will work with you to try to make sure that we create that atmosphere, that environment, so that we can all succeed.
Wonderful. Well, Doc, I wanted to maybe come to you because of anybody at this table. This is not a comment about age, but you've been engaged in coming to Washington probably the longest on behalf of the IFA. Talk a little bit about what franchising's meant to you and some of the ways that you've leaned in to educate and build relationships with lawmakers on some of these issues.
Well, it's interesting listening to everybody around the table because I started off in a different career as well. I went to the University of Georgia Pharmacy School. I lived in Savannah, so I grew up in Savannah. Well, I didn't grow up, but I got older there. I've never grown up and don't want to, but I graduated from pharmacy school. I was too young to get a license. You had to be 21, and I was only 20. So I went back to law school. So now I've got things in common with a number of our members of Congress. We started a drugstore chain in Savannah. I helped the two brothers who owned it grow it to about 50 units, and then they sold it. I moved out to California with them and bought another drugstore chain where I had a posh office in the C-suite, which was exciting to me, and we were really thinking we were doing well until I found out that our CFO had five-drawer file cabinets full of unopened mail, and the hundreds of thousands of dollars I was investing in overnight paper every day were disappearing faster than we could put them back in. And so I had to eliminate the entire middle management company of the company until I was very early victim of corporate downsizing, but back then we just called getting fired, and I had to fire myself. So I didn't have a car. They took away my company car. I had a house, a mortgage, and a dog. I had to find a way to make a living, and my sister, who lived in Atlanta, saw this startup company called Great American Cookies. And I said to her, do you know how many cookies you have to sell to pay the rent in one of those malls? I don't want to use the word, but 4 letters come to mind. It was a truckload, and I replaced the word truck with something else. Ultimately, I did become the first franchisee at Great American. And the largest. I started developing in a place called Lafayette, Louisiana, a place I'd never heard of. I always thought that Louisiana was a suburb of New Orleans, but I learned pretty quickly that Louisiana was a great place to start a business. I ended up opening over 30 stores in 7 states. I did learn early on, and one thing I'd like to point out, because of the relationship between franchisees and franchisors, which I think is critical. When I joined the company, I was the only, the two friends who opened it had no retail business, and I did. I had 30 years of retail experience. And I was able to help them grow the business and turn it into a business. It was a great concept, but they were lacking in the business part of it. And so as a franchisee, it was amazing that they let me help them develop the business side, which turned out to be a great one, ultimately. And as my mentor, Bill Rosenberg, who Sean pointed out was the founder of Dunkin' Donuts, taught me and taught everybody he talked to, you can't have successful franchisees without successful franchisors. And you can't have successful franchisors without successful franchisees. So I've always believed that both parties have to make a profit, but not at each other's expense. And so the best franchisors out there are doing what Charles pointed out, which is making the franchisees profitable. That's the top line responsibility of a franchisor is to help unit economics and help their franchisees become profitable. It's also important for me as a franchisee to have my franchisor protect the brand. Because that's what is important to me as a franchise. That's what I bought into, and that's why I pay a franchise fee, is to get the support from the franchisor. We have a book, and why was I successful? Because I followed the book. You know, somebody proved that this is how it works. So this is how you do it here. If you want to open a McDonald's, but you think your customers don't like a sesame seed bun and you want a plain bun, then go open Doc's Hamburgers, but you can't be a franchisee of McDonald's. In terms of legislative support, IFA has provided me with the opportunity to come to Washington, and I've been there at every event that we've ever had up on the Hill, and the opportunity to meet with legislators who agree with me and legislators who don't. And it's more important to me to go to the legislators who don't, because I want to show them why I believe in what I believe and try to convince them why I believe they're on the wrong track. And so it's nice to have members of Congress who are small business supporters and have been in small business themselves, because they understand it. But when you meet with a legislator who doesn't understand franchising, never heard of it, that gives me the opportunity to say to that franchisor, again, some of the things that Charles pointed out. I'm employing my neighbors, friends, their kids. I'm the first level of employment. It's up to me to help these young high school kids learn something about ethics and work ethic and responsibility. And when they go to the beach and call in sick, it's my job to teach them why that was wrong. And so it's really important for all of us. I don't care if you're a franchisee, a franchisor, or you're just independent, or you're looking at becoming a franchisee or a franchisor. It's really important to get to know your members of Congress and your Senate representatives, because that's where the legislation is taking place. That's where things that are important to me to run my business. And I had an opportunity to meet President Bush one day in pretty close quarters. I got to spend about 20 minutes with him alone before he went out to speak at an IFA event. At the end of the conversation, as they were calling him to go up on stage, he said, "Doc, what do you think I should talk about up there?" I said, "Mr. President, talk about how I can get the government out of my business." And Congressman, you mentioned that earlier, and that's what's important. Let the government let me run my business.
Well said, Doc. Thank you. Well, Congressman McCormick, I want to come back to you. I want to thank you officially for your service. As you may know, 14% of franchises are owned by veterans, which is nearly double the rate of small business veteran ownership. We have a program in our foundation called VetFriend that reduces barriers to entry for vets to open franchises. Just wanted to ask you how you see Congress in any way supporting franchising generally, but also specifically for our nation's vets.
Well, first of all, you talked about 14%. Less than 1% of the American population serves in the military. So that's a great representation. I'm glad that's a new statistic I'll add to my mental Rolodex. One of my favorite presidents of all time is a guy named Coolidge, who famously said, "The business of America is business." Without business, we don't have anything. We don't have this massive economy that supports the rest of the world, that drives the economic train, that depresses the unemployment rate, that creates opportunities that you guys know better than anybody. But we know exactly what the problem is. It's funny when somebody sits next to me, I'm not talking about anybody in specific, and they say, "Oh, just tell me what I need to know so I can help you." I know what the problem is. The government's the problem. If you think about the second leading cost to your business, it's healthcare. We required you to give healthcare, that's fine, but we also drove the healthcare prices up because we go against anti-competitive problems. Another really huge one is regulation and taxation. The more regulation, taxation, the less competitive you are. That's a government problem. When we say you have to hire or fire somebody or make a decision for you that you know best for your business, that's a problem. You notice how there's one central theme to this. We keep on turning back to the government to solve the problems that the government created. So ultimately, it's funny, as a military guy, the thing that I think we fought and died for is the opportunity to succeed or fail on our own without the government picking winners or losers, without the government getting in your way, which I say all the time. At best, we're a necessary evil. We're not here to pick winners and losers. You guys will win. The fact that you're sitting at these tables right now, you guys will win if we stay out of your way. There's no doubt in my way. Everything I campaign on comes down to that one basic principle that all government should be as local as possible because you get the best representation. And if we stay out of your way, you'll be really successful. That's what made America different. Not because the government was based to be in power, but because the people were meant to be in power and we serve the people. And whenever we reverse that, we get in the way. So one government philosophy I think we have, at least from the conservative movement, I'll tell you, is get the government the doggone, I'm trying to think of military non-curse words, get them the frick out of the way. And you will be successful. That's what we're here for. It's ironic. Somebody asked me once, so you mean to tell me you went up to Congress to become less powerful? Yep, that's right. To get us out of your way. Because I do believe in you. You're successful because you put your heart and time into this. And if we can get out of your way, you'll be more successful. And we can get back to the glory days of America and continue leading this world the way we're supposed to. Thank you.
Amazing. Congressman Johnson, I wanted to turn to you and talk a little bit about how IFA is helping get more people from underrepresented communities into franchising. We have a number of minority franchise owners around the table today, and we just last month announced the launch of a new program called the Ascension Initiative, which is a 6-month private sector-backed accelerator program that will take people from underrepresented groups and economically disadvantaged communities to launch a career in franchise ownership. What we've seen in some of our research is that black-owned franchises tend to do 2.2 times as much in sales compared to independent-owned businesses. So I just wanted to give you an opportunity to comment on that program or ways that either with Congress or just to encourage small business ownership and open people's eyes to the opportunities that so many of the folks around this table have seen through franchise ownership, either as immigrants or minorities. And of course, I do want to thank Inspire Brands as one of our many companies that helped support that program with some capital support.
Well, thank you. I want to commend the IFA for its outreach programs to reach underserved and unserved populations wherever they are in terms of entrepreneurs who locate businesses in areas that are not as vibrant as, say, this community. There's a lot of opportunity in minority communities across the country. And what I find is often those folks who live in those areas are wealthy enough to patronize the businesses that you all own, but yet in many respects they have to leave the areas where they live to spend their money with you in another location. And in those locations, it's hard for those consumers to get their children over there to have the jobs and to develop the culture of entrepreneurship and doing business. And so I think IFA is to be commended for its outreach to create greater opportunities for us all. And that is being done. That's not a government-run program. That's a private industry sponsored program. But that's not to say that there is not a role for government in producing an environment that enhances business opportunity. And one of the ways that government does that is by, first of all, providing for the common defense. And it also does that by promoting the general welfare. And these are ideals of, that are embedded in our Constitution. So government is a force for good, just as the business community is. And what I like to see is government and business working together. I can't take my mind off of the old Andy Griffin show, you know, where you had the banker and the pharmacist and the sheriff who represented the government working together. So the old Chamber of Commerce model of you know, working together with government to make things better for the people. I think we need to get back to that. That's a common sense ideal, and it works. And I want to also affirm what I've heard several times in this conversation, that it's important that members of the business community develop alliances with their representatives, regardless of which side of the aisle those representatives sit on. I think we all come to the table with our beliefs and experiences, but also hopefully open minds, willing to learn about new things. And so business is new to a lot of people. And when you come to Congress and present your concerns directly to the representatives, I think it's real important. And also having roundtables like this are so important that bring us together. So I want to thank you once again for sponsoring this very meaningful dialogue that we're having today.
Thank you, Congressman Johnson. Congressman Loudermilk, I wanted to come to you now and thank you for your support on the joint employer issue, which we touched on earlier. I would guess one of the areas where government support to some degree is important in the franchise model is with regard to the Small Business Administration, particularly as it relates to getting veterans and new people into the franchise model from other traditionally underrepresented groups. I just want to offer you an opportunity to comment on any of the issues that we talked about already on the labor front or the tax front or the capital access area.
Well, thanks, Matt. Yeah, the issue we have, and Rich McCormick touched on this earlier, when he used the term a necessary evil, originates from Thomas Paine, who said that government in its best state is a necessary evil, in its worst state it's an intolerable one. So our founders were looking at creating a system of government that would support a free market system, to give the ability of an individual to achieve their dream, to leave it open, government at the lowest level. And so they developed a template for government that was designed on the idea of a necessary evil, but we've been transitioning toward an intolerable one, as you have learned with the recent rulemaking that we have seen. And part of the issue we have, I serve on the Financial Services Committee. I'm vice chair of Financial Institutions and Monetary Policy. Most of what we're working on is trying to rein in the government from their obsessive rules and regulations. You see, the founders put in this idea of a Congress whose job was to think, and an executive branch whose job was to act upon what Congress had thought. Now, part of the problem is Congress quit thinking and started feeling a while back, but the idea was it was supposed to be very, very difficult to get legislation through because they understood that we tend to have knee-jerk reactions and we can over-regulate, we can over-legislate. So a system was put into place to where it is very difficult to get your best idea. I mean, I've come up with ideas that I knew were perfect, and the first committee hearing I had, people just shot holes all in my legislation, right? Because what worked good for my district was devastating for someone else's. So the idea was to have a very slow process. Within the last decade or two, we've seen a transition to where a lot of that legislative power has been taken by the executive branch, and this has gone across multiple presidents, to where if Congress did not think the way the executive wanted to think, then they would act by doing what is a legislative role through rules and regulations. Now, the Supreme Court has ruled, I think is going to be something very successful for the business community across the board, It was a year or two ago, and it was on the heels of the Dobbs decision, which took the headlines dealing with Roe versus Wade. But this was right after that, and a lot of people didn't hear about it. And it was dealing with what I call the administrative state, is legislating through the regulatory agencies, and basically they are trying to reinstitute the template that says Congress is responsible for making law. If a rule or regulation has the impact of law, which is denying you of property or liberty, then it has to go through Congress. And so it was targeted at the EPA, but they set a standard there. And we've seen, even through this labor rule, where the administration is totally ignoring the will of Congress, much less not going on what Congress, they're trying to do Congress's job, but even we've come back, and this is going to take a bipartisan effort for us to rein back in a government to where the template is restored. Part of what we're doing, Financial Services Committee, is almost full-time trying to rein in financial services agencies and regulators who are not only over-regulating in their own industries, they are crossing over into other areas of jurisdiction. It's almost like this complete power grab. And so this is one of the areas that I have been focusing in, both from the business standpoint and personal standpoint. We've got agencies that are trying to delve into personal finances to look at everything every one of your customers are doing, where they're spending their money. And it's almost like a foot race with agencies to dig deeper into your pocketbooks as well as the consumer's pocketbooks. But it's going to be challenging. Like I said, it's going to take a bipartisan effort, because a lot of these agencies, when they were started, the idea was to work in partnership with industry, to come up with what establishes a fair playing field, consumer advocacy, just putting some ground rules together. In fact, talked to a lot of smaller banks. They used to partner with the FDIC. If they had a question about capitalization or something with the rules and regulations, they would call their FDIC inspector or representative, who would come and sit down and go through it with them to make sure that they weren't in violation. You talk to small banks today, they're scared to death of the FDIC because they're coming in with this gotcha attitude. We're going to find something wrong. I talked to a small home builder, and I grew up in a construction family. My dad was a home builder, and he never had an issue with OSHA. They just didn't bother small business owners, right? I talked to a home builder up in Woodstock a couple of years ago who was getting $17,000 of fines from OSHA. I'm like, building a single home, I didn't think you would make that much profit. He said, well, yeah, it is eating up a lot of my profit building this home. And I'm like, well, did you have an employee that filed a complaint against you? He said, no. He said, in fact, I asked the inspector, how did you find out about us? He said, I was driving down the road and I saw a truck loaded with trusses, so I got behind the truck and followed it to the job site. This is not what the agencies were designed to do. They were designed to work in partnership, but it's become this adversarial relationship. And when I was first running for Congress, we had a business advisory committee, and I asked the group of business owners and managers and franchisee owners, and I said, what is the number one issue to you guys when I get to Washington? Is it to lower taxes or to cut regulation? Every person in the room said, if you're going to tax me, just tell me how much it's going to be and I can adjust to that. But I cannot operate with ever-changing and contradictory regulations. Fix the regulatory state and we can figure out how to be profitable. Of course, they were advocating still for lower taxes, as we all do. But the thing is, when you've got this regulatory state where you also actually have regulators that are crossing over jurisdictional lines, I've got one business that's in our district that they cannot be in compliance because there are 3 regulatory agencies that have different standards, and you can't be in compliance with the EPA, Homeland Security, and OSHA all at the same time. And it's, again, jurisdictional boundaries. We're seeing that with the Security Exchange Commission, which is supposed to be just regulating the stock exchanges and commodities exchanges. They're now getting into banking regulation as well as even crypto regulation, even after the Supreme Court has said the SEC cannot get into these areas. this is going to be on our backs as members of Congress, is that we have to do this in a bipartisan way, regardless of who is president. Senator Mike Lee and I started what we called the Article 1 project the first year I was in Congress. And this was looking at how do we reinstate the separation of powers, Article 1 being the congressional branch, legislative branch, Article 2 being the executive branch, and Article 3 the judicial branch. How do we reinstitute, because we've extended so much powers to the executive branch, how do we bring this back in? And we were doing a lot of good legislation. We were passing stuff out of the House, the Senate was taking up a lot of stuff, but when Trump got elected, it all stopped, because it was like, well, our guy's in there now, so we don't, we want our guy to have all this power. And my point was, no, that's exactly when we should be able to get this done, is when our guy is there, and hopefully we'll get them to sign off on it too. This is going to, what these agencies are doing are not only a front to businesses, they're a front to Congress, to our Article 1 branch as well. And so this is where we have to come together. And in the state legislature, Buddy and I would see this when the governor would do something that was an affront to the legislative body. Republicans and Democrats would hold together. We would defend our institution. And we have to get back to that. And the other side of the coin that I tell a lot of businesses is when I first got to Congress, the businesses, they want some bipartisan action on a lot of things, is businesses were interested in regulation, taxes, trade, these types of things that were significant to business. This is where we can find bipartisan buy-in. When a lot of the business started getting into the social areas and promoting different social aspects, which has always been for other groups, that's when a lot of the division began in the partisanship. So I think we've got a lot that we can work on together by focusing on those business aspects. That's the way Hank and I can agree on a lot of things. In fact, he commended me on being a common sense conservative a little while ago, and we can get along. But you don't see that in a lot of areas because the media does want to drive a wedge, and they do want to highlight those that do, or what I call wedge legislators, is they only get into those controversial areas. But there is a lot that we can agree on, and it's just that we have to take it from an institutional standpoint to get back to that template that our founders originated for a free market system to work.
Thank you so much, Congressman. We certainly agree on the challenge of the seesawing of regulations back and forth, and would love anything Congress can do, particularly in a bipartisan way, to re-exercise their role as those that make the laws and leave it to the agencies to enforce the laws. I wanted to swing back to the franchisee side of the conversation and go to Darcel. I'd love to hear a little bit about your journey into franchising and maybe a little bit of a reflection on you continue to grow, even in the wake of all this uncertainty, and how the franchise model and your partnership with the UPS stores and others have helped support your growth.
All right. Okay. So just a little bit about my journey.
Make sure you hit the button.
Okay. I guess I'll move it closer.
You're good.
Okay. All right. So just a little bit about my journey. And I've heard my colleague Mike sitting next to me very similar in the sense that I had a long corporate career. So I came from corporate America. Sham, I actually am a CPA, or a retired CPA, I'll say. So I stuck out the accounting role. So I started out in accounting. You mentioned PwC. I was at Deloitte, but I stuck it out. Went and got an MBA in finance, and I did 25 years in corporate America, also with good companies, particularly in their heyday. They were great companies, Motorola, Boeing, and, worked my way up the corporate ladder there. About halfway through, and I did about 25 years in corporate America, about halfway through, though, I started thinking about, my future career beyond where I was at that time. And a couple of things that drove me into this whole franchising world. First of all, again, I mentioned that I am a finance and accounting person. My MBA is in finance as well. And, very good at following rules, following regulations, following, I'll call it a cookbook, so to speak. Not very big on creative, not a salesperson, not a marketing type. So I looked at that and I said, now what type of business will complement my strengths and my weaknesses? And being that I'm not a creative and not a marketing salesperson, although I do have an outgoing personality, but nonetheless, franchising attracted me because you get a brand with a franchise. And so that would complement what I felt was my weaker side of my business acumen by having a great brand. So one of the things, and I'll talk in a minute about the three criteria that I used to select the particular brand that I went with, but one thing was a strong brand, a brand that would bring, the recognition and again complement my, I'm going to say, rule-regulated type of education and background. So I looked at that. The other thing is that I just wanted to have more control over my life, more control over my destiny, my career. I was in finance. I was in corporate America. I saw the good, the bad, and the ugly with respect to, just corporate and how individuals, their career trajectories, and I wanted to, again, have more control over my career, particularly later in my career. There were some particular incidents, I won't go into a lot of detail, but particular incidents when I was younger in my career that I saw with people probably not even as old as I am now that I didn't like, that happened to them. And, I just, again, wanted to have control. So that was one of the things that I looked at. And then I also looked at some of the colleagues or some of the people that preceded me in my business schools. I went to some great business schools, and I looked at, what were they doing? And a lot of them, they were the master or captain of their own ship. They had their own businesses. Some of them were still in corporate America, but a lot of them, were CEOs of this and CEOs of that, again, having, control in the destined, or I will say, master of their own ship. So I looked at all those things and I said, well, I think franchising is the way for me. And so for about 15 years, I did research. And not, religiously every day, but, I would go to seminars, I would go to, workshops, webinars, I would talk to franchisees, talk to franchisors, go on site visits. A lot of the people around this room, I may have visited or looked at or researched your individual franchises. I wound up with the UPS store because, again, I mentioned the three criteria. So one was a strong brand. I wanted a strong brand. I was interested in something that was going to be sustainable, something that was going to be around for a while, not a fad. So I was looking for a sustainable brand. And again, I'm in finance and I'm in accounting. So I'm looking for a profitable brand, profitable business. And profitable meaning that, I decided that I was going to purchase an existing business, and so therefore I would have historical data to look at, historical P&Ls, and I can see over history that these particular stores were successful. So with all of those things, again, did my research, and I will say, a lot of people say, well, how, what happened with this and what happened with that? A lot of people say, a lot of it's luck. Some of it's luck. And I will say that, once I kind of fell into, I'm going to look for a particular type of brand, this UPS store brand, I will say, kind of fell into my lap. I had moved here I lived in Chicago all the time that I was doing my corporate career. I moved here to another corporate job. I was a VP of finance at CNN. That's how I came to Atlanta 17 years ago. And, but UPS was headquartered here. I don't know if it's UPS was here in the room, but headquartered here, I think near here, very close to here. And I started looking at that, and I stumbled upon franchise ownership with UPS stores. And I said, because I had never pursued UPS stores in my research. And I said, great brand. I'm going to check the profitability, definitely. And I think sustainable. And I think I'm right. This is 15 years in, UPS is still going strong. So I looked at that. And I'm going to say I got lucky. The stars and the moon lined up. Not that I didn't do my research. I did my research. I certainly did my P&L, analysis. But I bought my first 2 stores were like within 5 miles of my house. They were profitable, very profitable. The particular owners were selling those because they were retiring. They're probably the age I am now, but they were retiring. And, and everything just looked right. And so even though it was not on my calendar, it was early before I planned to come out of corporate America. But the thing, it was just an opportunity presented itself to me. And so I moved in and I actually purchased those 2 stores. So those 2 stores are my first 2, 15 years ago in Decatur. And then I got 2 more in Douglasville, and then 1 in Midtown Atlanta. And so 5 stores, 15 years in, yes, looking to grow even more. And it's been a great journey along the way.
That's
So
amazing.
that's kind of my story.
Really a prototype, I think, of what we encourage in terms of due diligence at the IFA and so many of the brands that are represented around this table and in our membership at a time where too many are often, trying to find the next, big thing too quickly. It's really important in the terms of franchising responsibly, finding that right brand to partner with the right franchisee in the right community to set them up for success. I wanted to go to Danielle next and let you share a little bit about your family business and your journey from employee to owner, which is something that is so amazing, but not particularly unique to you. There are so many of those examples across not just in Inspire, but across so many of our member companies.
I just want to say thank you again for having me here. This is such a cool experience that I never really thought that I'd be a part of. Talking to congressmen, my mind's a little blown, but here we go. I have 2 stores north of Atlanta, and I started with Jimmy John's about 12 years ago, working in another franchisee store in Tallahassee, Florida. And my dad was retiring from the Air Force, so he was interested in franchising. So we teamed up together. I was his operations partner for 1 store that we bought here in the one I have now, North Atlanta. And the goal was long-term that I would be able to buy him out. That was an 8-year goal. That's how long it took me to finish buying out his partnership. Shortly after that, I acquired another location right before COVID. That was very interesting. But that brings us closer to today. About a year ago, my husband, he's here in the audience, but he left the corporate world, and now he is here, and we run both of our stores together. We have an 11-month-old. His name is Charles also, but I'm sure when he's old enough, he'll be in there making sandwiches, and maybe even one day he's going to take it over. We'll see how that goes. But it's really cool to hear everyone's stories here, too. It sounds like no one started as a politician. I'm learning a lot today and with franchising in general. But we look forward to seeing what the future holds, and thank you again.
Yeah, of course. Too many people, a lot of people in franchising don't really set out to become franchise owners. It finds them somewhere in their journey. We think there is some of that, obviously, in Congress as well, not setting out to go become a career politician. But Nishith, I wanted to come to you and let you share, because you're in so many brands, not just in the restaurant industry. Talk a little about your pathway and maybe reflect a bit on some of what you've heard from the lawmakers up here this morning.
Sure. First of all, I will say thank you for the opportunity that I got from the Inspire brands and from the Jimmy John's team. Not the Dunkin' either, because I've been part of the Dunkin' also, so which I love it. Had made us the growth, but thank you so much for this opportunity to become on the table, meeting Mr. Brown, Mr. Holler, and the congressmen, and getting introductions and the communications and getting the opportunity to learn from the experts and in order to grow in the future. I had started my journey in 1997 from India, from Bombay. I came as a student over here, bare minimum, did not have anything, slept on the carpet. That was our journey, and had a dream of owning a business. And I work in a corporate America. And my partner Sam, we are partner in the few Dunkins also. And also I'm an accountant. I had my bachelor's degree in accounting and numbers. So great, and Sam, I guess the number guys are working with the what the bottom can bring us on the table, right? And started with the Jimmy John's has been mind because I was looking for so many opportunities, so many businesses, did my analysis. I've been got rejected because of my financials or because of some other reasons by the Subway or by the Quiznos approved me. I did not move forward because I did not like the model, something. But finally I got landed with the Jimmy John's. And the Jimmy John's is because I used to work in a corporate in downtown, midtown Atlanta in a Biltmore building, part of the DirecTV, and I used to order the Jimmy John's all the times. And the delivery concept that time was the great that Jimmy John's only one who delivers during the lunchtime, that you don't have to go out of your desk and get the product delivered at your doorsteps. And love that sub concept, bread, quality was so amazing and freshness. And I said, like, let me try this one. Let me approach the brand. I study more, and after that, I applied for the brand, and I got it approved. And luckily, I'm right next to the neighbor of the Inspire brand. One store is in Roswell, one in Dunwoody. I'm right here. And started the journey with my partners, and we applied, and he used to be the part of the Jimmy John's also, that which we are part of the Dunkin' now. And we started the journey with the Dunkin' and become the part to grow in the hospitality business. I guess our last name means a lot. The Patels stands out. We always in a business. We community as a Patels that family helps each other out with the to grow and supports, and we learn from each other, and we try to grow our family members along with our community also, and our employees also. So I right now focus not only growth myself, and but to take my managers and grow them, teach them, learn them how to be part of the franchise business, and take them and make a difference in their life, you know. So this is where I actually started everything and grown into the hospitality business to learn about, I always like challenges. I can't stand in one place. That's my problem. I can't just sell the sandwiches. So I started first store and I established the second store within a year and a half. And from them, in 10 years, 13 Dunkins, 2 Jimmy John's, 2 Red Roofs, 1 Motel 6, and last I opened the UPS store right now. Plus we are in the construction business. We are developed the standalone buildings with the retail plazas and everything. So love the constructions and the opportunity to learn in every aspects of the business. And the hospitality industries is great, learning from the customers, the employees, the training, the brand, how the brand supports, and when people always complains about the franchisor. When the franchisee usually complains about the franchisor, this is not happen right. This is not coming to you. Sometimes the employees, our operations, staff managers also complains when the new changes comes. And one thing I like, I am not here because what I like or what I don't like. I'm here to get the job done based on what has given me the rules, regulations, procedures, and everything. And if I follow that, I can be successful. If I don't like it, that what Dunkin' is doing, what Jimmy John's is doing, I guess I need to be part of that and start looking into something else. Because if you adopt the change, you will be better off in taking the negativism out of the portfolio across the board. Start adopting that new culture, new changes. When Inspire brand took it over, the Dunkin', Jimmy John's, I've been in both the process. The new sandwich is coming, hard sandwiches is coming. Everything is coming. People don't like the change. Operations manager did not like. I explained them. My My family member did not like changes. I'm telling my wife, she runs one store. She's like, wow, how are we going to adapt the change? Change is always better if you take it early enough and start learning out of that. That can change the whole mentality. We can bring that positivity in your business if you're looking at the different ways, because franchisor has put enough research and development in that to how everything will work. They have better numbers, better data, and everything, and that can make the changes into the profitability of the business. If you adopt that change, and franchisors are there to support you, guide you when you're opening the new locations and everything, but you have to do your own homework too, same time. What is your fixed cost? What is your variable cost? Is that location is going to work? You study the market, and that combined data will help you to make that successful operation of that business. It's not easy, it's challenging. Feel like I got failed a couple of times. Business went down, business came back again up, but you believe in yourself and working hard, yes, the business will make you profitable at the end of the day. And with the congressmen, that government supports us, but sometimes it's not easy to see the changes that is happening, right? Recently, I think I am feeling the challenges with the SBAs, because you can't get the loans right now because of the EIDL loan was given to you. Now the EIDL loan, and you try to apply for the another loans, the tax returns are not up to the date, even though you submitted everything to the IRS. IRS can't give everything to the SBAs right now, and it's all these, they are backlog, so it's like the banks can't lend the money. So those are the challenges, but as long as you work, your numbers are together, your books are up to the date, your tax return has been filed, everything can be worked out in your favor.
Thank you. I know that we are running a bit over, so if folks do need to depart, we encourage that. We'll continue the conversation for just a few more minutes. Indy, I wanted to come to you as the chair of the IFA's Franchisee Forum, and as somebody that's now running a multi-generational franchise business, and let you talk a little about your journey and also reflect on some of the work of the Franchisee Forum and the role the forum plays in representing the voice of franchisees within the IFA and how important that is.
Thank you, Matt. This has been a great experience. There's a lot of conversation going on about educating and understanding what the franchise model is. There is a lot of conversation going on what the franchisor role is played, and then what the franchisee role is, and of course our supplier partners as well. So the big piece of my work with the IFA Franchisee Forum is to bring all parts of the franchise business model together and help each other understand what role everyone plays. It's not rocket science, because I did drink that Kool-Aid many years ago. We've had a lot of conversations about brands growing. We have a lot of conversations about how franchisees grow. The way we look at it is it's literally, if a brand is going to grow, it'll grow in two parts. It's obviously franchise development, and then it's obviously unit-level economics. Unit-level economics is, the responsibility, the buy-in of a franchisee, but it ripples up to the franchisor. And then bringing it back to, Matt, your question about my family, generational wealth. I look at it as generational growth. My story started back, I grew up in French Canada. I was 3 years old when we moved there. My father was a machinist. He had his own business. He swore never to hire an employee because he would literally just fire them. That's why he went into business for himself. But this kind of really makes me realize the situation we are in today. I moved to the U.S. in 1998, and that's when I opened up the Goddard schools. Opened up a second one in 2008 during the market drop. Lucky for me, I was able to break even within 6 months. Still don't know how I did it, but the second location did really well. Actually, I do know how I did it. I followed the model. It's all about following the model. And I was smart enough 8 years later to not stray, which is another story in itself. But that led me to, and 20 years later, 2000, I can't do the math, and I'm mathnesium. I think it was 2016 that I sold those locations.
You have aged out of that program,
right? I know, I don't want to give numbers because then you'll figure out how old I am, right? So yeah, 2016, I sold both locations, held on to the real estate, so created another vertical, holding on to real estate and managing it. And then my son, who's sitting in the audience, decides to go to college but drop out. And I said, you cannot drop out. That was your granddad's hard-earned money that took you to college. And I go, but if you do, come home with a plan. And of course, he grew in franchising, and he saw the ups and downs and the pros and cons and the successes and the failures. And he said, well, Mom, I want to go into franchising. And I said, well, childcare is not what we're going to do, but let's do mathnesium. Our passion is children. Our passion is making a difference in our community. And franchising allows you to do that. And we had a lot of conversations about that. It's not the franchise brand that's going to grow up at corporate and be able to open up locations in communities. It's franchisees like us that live in our communities and know what our communities need. So we're bringing these brands, these services, these products to our people, the people that we all represent. So that's really something to remember as we talk about unit level economics. We are now in 3 locations. We are in Alpharetta, West Marietta, Woodstock. We have a second location opening up in Marietta and a second location opening up in Milton. But when we talk about unit level economics at this point, I say to myself, I bought into a franchise business model. And when I say a franchise business model, it takes with it the operational model. It's not just a business model. Within that is the operations, it's the finance, it's the marketing. And the brand has looked at what the success factors are when it comes to all those. And we talk about, what's going on in Congress today about joint employer. Anything that would topple over that model will put us out of business. And if we are out of business, then we can't grow in our communities. And that really concerns me, because when we look at it, I can just share one example that just happened to us in our operations last week. We had to let go of a center manager. Now, can you imagine if this was, like Charles said, that if this was this decision to let someone go because they were not the right person in our business, and that was the responsibility of the franchisor? What would it take? We have 1,100 franchise locations, mathnesium locations. If I had to pick up the phone and say to corporate, I have to let go of somebody. Now that I've let go of somebody, how do I fill that position? That's joint employer. I could not let that control go into their hands. They don't know my community. We've talked about it. So I guess to wrap it up, I know we're running out of time. I'm going to put all of you guys on my speed dial, which nobody knows what speed dial is. It's now called favorites. And take that opportunity to have these conversations and share more examples of what we need and how we can be successful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Indy, and I think that's a great capstone to talk about the impact that the joint employer issue has, and really, beyond just the policy impact, the importance of what we're talking about when we're talking about protecting the franchise business model, because it's just very unique and very powerful what the model does actually in these communities, not just for you all as business owners, but for the people and the cultures that each of your organizations builds, and the outcomes, as we've seen in the data from the IFA and Oxford Economics, that employees fare far better in the franchise sector in terms of wages, in terms of benefits, in terms of upward mobility with some of the stories that we've heard about today. The data does not lie. the franchise model is the greatest way to create upward mobility that exists. And we appreciate the members of Congress around the table for helping us protect and promote it. And we appreciate each and every one of you. I apologize. This is the largest roundtable we've ever had at one of these, and I did not get to everybody to make a comment, but I think we'll continue the conversation. I know we've got some video crews around where we want to capture some content for our website and for our advertising campaigns. I want to thank Paul and his team for hosting us. I believe there's an opportunity for a tour of the facility here, which our good buddy Mike Vanacki over there is going to lead, I believe. Thank you, Mike, for that. And to each and every one of you, thank you for your support of IFA and franchising. Paul, if you wanted to offer any closing remarks, I would greatly appreciate it.
I just want to thank the congressman for taking the time to be part of this really important conversation around such a key part of the America's business model. And so thank you again for joining, and I hope you enjoy the lunch and the tour later this afternoon.
Oh.
Thank you.